How old were you when you played your first video game? Mine was at the age of 3, and it wasn't something typical like your Marios or Sonics, but instead a different franchise altogether that I would learn to love. The name of the game was Kirby's Adventure.
What seemed like a little distraction from my daily viewings of Tailspin and other glorified 90s cartoons became a tidal wave that affected my taste in all media. Wait, what did he just say? Let me explain. For this, we don't really need any historical context. It doesn't matter that Kirby's Adventure is the second in the series, or that other technologically superior consoles were already available worldwide. All we need to know is that I was handed a controller to be distracted while my parents did parent things, leaving me in the living room completely perplexed by the new interactive medium in front of my face, all while probably wearing this stupid cowboy hat. Thanks, Mom. Man, I could sit here all day and talk about mechanics and specifics. I'm still gonna do that, but I just figured it would be more interesting to track the evolution of myself from the starting point. You know, spill a little of my guts out for you. But after this, no more. Upon playing Kirby's Adventure for the first time, 3-year-old me probably deconstructed everything the game had to offer shortly after finishing. Something like, music, easy, colors! He was a thinker, also probably an asshole. So there's our 3 topics of choice. For those who are not baby children living in the middle of nowhere, that turns into music, aesthetics, and simplicity. So let's begin with simplicity, or the gameplay. The term easy is thrown around with Kirby quite a bit, and I don't think that's fair. Sure, Adventure isn't the type of game you'll be stuck on and come back to a week later, but instead a quick and cohesive experience. This lends itself not only to the replayability, but also to the imagination of a child. One who, unsatisfied with their character, can look at the screen and say, I want to be that person, and then lo and behold, become that person via Kirby's copy abilities. You never have to wait for a random power-up to drop, but instead are greeted with the instant gratification and excitement upon seeing a specific enemy. And you know what makes this great? The fact that Kirby has a total of 24 movesets that all use one button. No matter which power-up you have, you know exactly how to utilize it. And unless you're really good at this game, you're probably going to take damage and lose it. But it's okay, baddies with abilities are literally around the corner, teaching the player to make use of what is in front of him. There's really no strategy to completing a Kirby game, it's pure forward-moving chaos and variety. And that variety comes in the gameplay, as everything is so vastly different, running full speed ahead at 11. It's exciting though, as you never really know what to expect next. I really appreciate this, as being thrown a mechanic to deal with for one stage and one stage only excites me. That way, every single level in the game stands out more than if everyone employed the same mechanics. That's how I felt upon replaying it and coming across the stage based off the Game Boy original Kirby's Dream Land. If that's not like the first HD port ever, I don't know what is. The simplicity doesn't end with just the gameplay either. Here's our story. Kirby can't dream, so he goes to the Fountain of Dreams to see that King Dedede messed up everything and destroyed the Star Rod. Yeah, that's a ridiculous story, but the interesting part comes in when you recover all of the pieces of the Star Rod. After smashing King Dedede at the Fountain of Dreams, you find out that he only did what he did to prevent Nightmare from appearing at the Fountain of Dreams. All of this is portrayed without the usage of any dialogue whatsoever. There's no awkward cutscenes with voice acting, no 20 lines of dialogue to sift through, just pure simplicity. I feel like over time that this has affected me the most as a player. I have a hard time getting into story-heavy games because they're a commitment. We could talk about game length all night, but with something like Dragon Age Inquisition, I'm usually gonna give up around the 40 to 50 hour point because I feel like it's exhausting everything I have to offer as a player. The variety is non-existent, and you tend to stop caring about your Inquisition if the raw gameplay is boring you. This is why I've always felt that the best games are short, concise, and varying ones. Gunstar Heroes once again comes to mind. Now, this doesn't mean I don't appreciate story and lore in video games. Persona 4 is one of my favorites, but I'd be lying if I said I cared about every bit of dialogue in the game, unless it involves Naoto. I'm not gonna hate on lore, but I usually skip it. To me, gameplay comes first and foremost, tied very closely with the soundtrack and the overall look of a game. I don't know, I'm not a fan of story being spoon-fed down my throat. It kills any chance I have of developing my own interest in relationships with the characters in this fancy fictional world. #Eruption hates video games. Moving on to music, Kirby's musical score has always garnered positive reception, and I totally agree. Games like Super Mario Bros. Have their memorable soundtracks, but they would typically stick to mid-tempo jam with a catchy melody. Kirby's Adventure, on the other hand, is like thrash metal in comparison. Tracks from stages like Green Fields, Island Paradise, and the classic Green Greens are furious, notably using a hi-hat sound to keep the pace moving very quickly. It's high energy, and when complemented with whatever trickery Hirokazu Ando and Jun Ishikawa used to create that heavy bass drum sound, is kind of a monster. However, due to the stage variety that exists in Kirby, the soundtrack also got its fair share of experimentation. Starry Sky is a strange stage, and the sound is this slower and kind of psychedelic ballad. High Hills is floaty and simple. The overworld themes are so different depending on which world you go to. All of this comes together in the final boss stage, Nightmare. It starts with a pounding drum and bass rhythm before relaxing into the staple Kirby melodies. This works all too well and helps the climax of Adventure feel all too satisfying. Good music in video games goes without saying. A good soundtrack is something that'll stick in your head and something you'll blast in your car speakers. I'm a musician, well actually I'm a drummer, and a lot of gaming soundtracks inspire me. Kirby's Adventure has this really tight and exciting rhythm section, one that speaks directly into my brain holes. Okay, I'll shut up about music for now. For now. Aesthetics. A set of principles concerned with the nature and appreciation of beauty, especially in art. In other words, colors and stuff. Video games are an art form, and when Kirby's Adventure is your very first one, it's hard not to think that way. Little 3-year-old me was correct in deducting that Kirby had colors. When put up against other titles of the era, our little pink puffball here really stands out. Hell, the palette is more diverse than some of the games of today. It stands out in a way that the mid-50s pop art did. By utilizing complementary and contrasting colors, Nintendo created a world that may not be necessarily believable, but something that stands out. Not just for the era either, but for the rest of time. I feel like the aesthetics lend themselves directly to the gameplay as well. Because each world feels so vastly alien when compared to the ones surrounding it, I'm constantly in a state of awe. One moment you're up in the clouds and getting used to traversing vertically, not long after that you're on a long wooden bridge abusing the wheel ability to tear through enemies to get to the exit. It may not feel like a cohesive world, but it certainly helps add to Kirby's Adventure's concept of exploring this insane dream world. Also, it's super cute. Freaking adorable. Nothing gets me more excited than a game with a super colorful palette. Katamari, the Persona series, Rocket Knight, the list goes on and on. I've always felt that a strong and distinct art style in the world can captivate me harder than any Skyrim or Assassin's Creed can. I suppose I've always preferred it when video games have a world that is harder to imagine, to reach as far away from reality as possible. Isn't that just escapism? Shut up. Strong aesthetics can help a game stand the test of time as well. Just look at The Wind Waker, Chrono Trigger, Banjo-Kazooie. Vibrant colors and simplistic textures help objects, characters, and backgrounds to stand out. I'm not trying to pick on Bethesda here, but an unmodded Oblivion ages harder and harder every day. It's gross. Dude, what the hell are you trying to say? So what happens when you combine my 3 major baby thoughts, simplicity, music, and aesthetics? You get yourself a game where every single moment feels special, and I at least never felt like I was wasting my time or playing the same level twice. What is only about a 2-hour game transforms into this giant adventure filled to the brim with new worlds, exciting bosses, fun minigames, and general funness. Funnitude. I really appreciate the Kirby franchise because it really embraces these 3 concepts to the point where the pink puffball is used as an excuse for Nintendo and HAL to experiment. Looking through Kirby's catalog, you'll see games like Epic Yarn, Canvas Curse, Squeak Squad, Mass Attack, Dream Course. Nintendo really pushes these strange spin-off titles, but at this point they outnumber the traditional Kirby games. Regardless of the financial success these games bring, it's cool to see Nintendo continue to try new things with the series. Maybe I'm just coming off as a crazy country bumpkin that needs a couple extra hours of sleep every night, but I don't think so. Kirby's Adventure fills all the criteria of what I consider to be a great work of art, but it's not even close to being the only one.
Listen, if you haven't played it by this point, I do recommend giving it a shot. It's good and it's aged pretty well. But that brings me to the point of this video because I want to know what your first game was and if it shaped any bit of who you are. Maybe I'm just crazy. But I kind of want to know. Anyways, I'm Austin, is in love with children's games from 1992, but anything else is stupid Eruption, and I'll catch you later. Bye. Anyways, I'm Austin, is in love with children's games from 1992 and anything else is stupid Eruption, and I'll catch you later. I hope ukulele sucks, Gil.